So I will start this video by reading Salome. I'd done it before, and doubtless I'll do it again sooner or later. Woke up with the head on the pillow beside me. Whose? What did it matter? Good looking, of course, dark hair, rather matted, the reddish beard several shades lighter, with very deep lines round the eyes, from pain I'd guess, maybe laughter, and a beautiful crimson mouth that obviously knew how to flatter, which I've kissed. Colder than pewter. Strange. What was his name? Peter? Simon? Andrew? John? I knew I'd feel better for tea, dry roast, no butter, so rang for the maid. And indeed, her innocent clatter of cups and plates, her hearing of clutter, her regional patter, were just what I needed, hungover and wrecked as I was from a night on the batter. Never again. I needed to clean up my act, get fitter, cut out the booze and the fags and the sex. Yes, and as for the latter, it was time to turf out the blighter, the beater or biter, who'd come like a lamb to the slaughter to Salome's bed. In the mirror, I saw my eyes glitter. I flung back the sticky red sheets, and there, like I said, and ain't life a bitch, was his head on a platter. And now I will read Frau Freud. Ladies, for argument's sake, let us say that I've seen my fair share of ding-a-ling, member and jock, of todger and nudger and Percy and cock, of tackle, of three for a bob, of Willie and Winky. In fact, you could say, I'm as au fait with the Salome as Miss M. Lewinsky, equally sick up to here with the beef bayonet, the pork sword, the Savoy, love muscle, nightcrawler, dong, the dick, prick, dipstick and wick, the rammer, the slammer, the Rupert, the schlong. Don't get me wrong. I've no axe to grind with the snake in the trousers, the wife's best friend, the weapon, the python. I suppose what I mean is, ladies, dear ladies, the average penis, not pretty, the squint of its envious solitary eye, one's feeling of pity. Now I really want to find female nude. Or I will now read Mrs. Lazarus. I'd grieved. Hello, good morning. I'd grieved. I had wept for a night and a day over my loss, ripped the cloth I was married in from my breasts, howled, shrieked, clawed at the burial stones till my hands bled, retched his name over and over again, dead, dead. Gone home, gutted the place, slept in a single cot, widow, one empty glove, white femur in the dust, half stuffed dark suits into black bags, shuffled in a dead man's shoes, noosed the double knot of a tie around my bare neck, gaunt nun in the mirror, touching herself. I learned the stations of bereavement, the icon of my face in each bleak frame, but all of those months he was going away from me, dwindling to the shrunk size of a snapshot, going, till his name was no longer a certain spell for his face. The last hair on his head floated out from a book. His scent went from the house. The will was read. See, he was vanishing to this small zero held by the gold of my ring. Then he was gone. Then he was legend, language. My arm on the arm of the school teacher, the shock of a man's strength done under the sleeve of his coat, under the hedgerows. But I was faithful for as long as it took, until he was memory. Now Circe. I'm fond, nereids and nymphs, and like some of the pig, of the tusker, the snout, the boar, and the swine. One way or another, all pigs have been mine. Under my thumb, the bristling, salty skin of their backs. In my nostrils here, their yobby, porky colognes. I'm familiar with hogs and runts, their percussion of oinks and grunts, their squeals. I've stood with a pail of swill at dusk, at the creaky gate of the sty, tasting the sweaty, spicy air, the moon like a lemon popped in the mouth of the sky. But I want to begin with a recipe from abroad, which uses the cheek, and the tongue in cheek at that. Lay 2 pigs' cheeks with the tongue in a dish, and strew it well over with salt and cloves. Remember the skills of the tongue: to lick, to tap, to loosen, lubricate, to lie in the soft pouch of the face, and how each pig's face was uniquely itself, as many handsome as plain, the cowardly face, the brave, the comical, noble, sly or wise, the cruel, the kind, but all of them nymphs with those piggy eyes. Season with mace. Well cleaned pig's ears should be blanched, singed, tossed in a pot, boiled, kept hot, scraped, served, garnished with thyme. Look at that simmering lug at that ear. Did it listen ever to you, to your praise and rhymes, to the chimes of your voice singing and clear? Mash the potatoes, nymph. Open the beer. Now to the brains, to the trotters, shoulders, chops, to the sweetmeat slipped from the slit, bulging, vulnerable bag of the balls. When the heart of a pig has hardened, dice it small. Dice it small. I, too, once knelt on this shining shore, watching the tall ships sail from the burning sun like myths, slipped off my dress to wade, breast deep in the sea, waving and calling, then plunged, then swam on my neck, looking up as 3 black ships sighed in the shallow waves. Of course, I was younger then, and hoping for men. Now, let us baste that sizzling pig on the spit once again. Now, I swear it's gonna be female nude, okay? If I can find it. Mrs Quasimoto, This, I got this book for my birthday. It arrived today, and I'm just really happy. Because I love Carol Ann Duffy. I'd say that she's one of my strongest inspirations. Is it just not here? Oh well. Then we shall read Little Red Cap. At childhood's end, the houses petered out into playing fields, the factory allotments kept like mistresses by kneeling married men, the silent railway line, the hermit's caravan, till you came at last to the edge of the woods. It was there that I first clapped eyes on the wolf. He stood in the clearing, reading his verse out loud in his wolfy drawl, a paperback in his hairy paw, red wine staining his bearded jaw. What big ears he had, what big eyes he had, what teeth! In the interval, I know how to speak English, I made quite sure he spotted me, sweet 16, never been, babe, waif, and brought me a drink, my first. You might ask why. Here's why. Poetry. The wolf, I knew, would lead me deep into the woods, away from home, to a dark, tangled, thorny place lit by the eyes of owls. I crawled in his wake, my stockings ripped to shreds, scraps of red from my blazer snagged on twig and branch, murder clues. I lost both shoes, but got there, wolf's lair, better beware. Lesson 1 that night, breath of the wolf in my ear, was the love poem. I clung till dawn to his thrashing fur, for what little girl doesn't dearly love a wolf? Then I slid from between his heavy matted paws and went in search of a living bird, white dove, which flew straight from my hands to his open mouth. One bite, dead. How nice, breakfast in bed, he said, licking his chops. As soon as he slept, I crept to the back of the lair, where a whole wall was crimson, gold, aglow with books. Words were truly alive on the tongue, and the head, warm, beating, frantic, winged, music and blood. But then I was young, and it took 10 years in the woods to tell that a mushroom stoppers the mutter of a buried corpse, that birds are the utter thought of trees, that a graying wolf howls the same old song at the moon, year in, year out, season after season, same rhyme, same reason. I took an axe to a willow to see how it wept. I took an axe to a salmon to see how it leapt. I took an axe to the wolf, and he slept, one chop scrotum to throat, and saw the glistening virgin white of my grandmother's bones. I filled his old belly with stones. I stitched him up. Out of the forest I come with my flowers, singing. Hold on. All right. What did you think, Snoopy? Yeah, Snoopy gets it. All right. Bye.